Beyond and hello, everyone. My name is Jonathon Dornbush, and I am the host of IGN's weekly PlayStation show, Podcast Beyond. This is episode 591. We are so close to episode 600.
Oh, my God.
And even closer to Carly Rae Jepsen's dedicated album coming out the 17th, I believe. I'm very excited.
Oh.
Anyway.
Dedicated to this show?
In addition, I hope so. In addition, Carly, if you're ever in San Francisco, please come to the IGN offices and come hang out and Beyond.
Huge gamer.
Her last album's one of my favorite albums of all time. Anyway, I am joined this week beyond the spirit of Carly Rae Jepsen by Max Scoville.
Hey.
And Brian Altano.
Beyond and good morning to you both. It's like a rainy...
We're recording in the morning.
It's a rainy morning in San Francisco. It's like, I don't know, but I'm very happy to be in here. It's cozy. It's nice.
Yeah, it's weird. We usually record on sort of, I don't know, sort of sloppy afternoons, and then today it's a big sloppy morning. We get to skip the morning meeting. This feels like in like grade school when you got to be late for school because you had to go to the dentist or something.
Oh, yeah. I used to do the morning announcements in my high school.
Really?
And so, yeah, I got to, like, not have to sit in my homeroom and be quiet and everything. Like, I worked tech and was on them a couple times, but I would, like, I get to just go hang out in the studio for an extra 30 minutes and not have to go to
Can you
class
give us
first.
some PlayStation morning announcements?
Today, the biggest news about PlayStation will include talk about Death Stranding and Kojima's teases for a new trailer. In addition to that, Ubisoft has announced 3 new games are coming in next year, and a fantastic memory card is coming your way later this episode. But first, I have an announcement. Sort of an announcement.
Uh-oh.
Beyond 600 is really close, and I know a lot of you have been asking if we're going to be doing something for Beyond 600. Things are in the works. We are going to be doing something. We are still working out the very specifics for everything, but something will be happening in San Francisco toward the end of June. I think we're looking tentatively at the last week of June. We're nailing down the date and everything, so I'm not going to say anything just yet in case that moves. But if you're looking to come to something, we will have tickets available and information available and all that stuff as it comes together. But we are planning a Beyond 600 live show thing. It's going to be fun. I'm excited.
Yeah, we will be celebrating and hanging out with you guys, and we will lock down those dates very soon. But yeah, we're going to do something fun.
Yes, yeah.
There's a very good chance I will not be there because I'm going on vacation.
I want a message from you from...
I think we can at the very least have a cardboard cutout of me.
Oh,
and
that's easy.
I could probably make you a video from
Perfect.
Hawaii.
Well, at the very least,
an airplane or something.
Yes. But yeah, so for those who've been wondering, we will be doing something. More details, excuse me, to come. It's the morning. We all have morning bad talking abilities. But yeah, we
morning
will...
breath.
Morning breath.
Morning whispers.
Morning whispers. But yeah, we will have more information coming about that. Stay tuned. But before Beyond 600 happens, we have a lot more news to discuss this week. So let's get into News Crunch. Someone in the Beyond Facebook group
Never fails.
said,
So much going on there.
I love News Crunch as a segment. I hate the opening. They're like, that child just bothers me so much.
You know what? I think it's because we have pointed it out so many times that now people can't unhear.
Well, it's
We've given
many,
them a backstory.
It's like so many things happening at once. You've got like a little bit of like porn groove. You've got some
There's
like
like a
techno
tom drum.
there's like a techno buildup. There's a 1920s boy.
Yeah,
and
there's like
you shouting.
There's the snare they used on Saint Anger. Like, it's weird. There's a lot. There's a lot going
It's
on.
crazy. That was Ronnie's thesis project when he was in music school.
I
He just
know.
replicated that on the show,
Yeah,
but
it's
it works.
huge.
We do actually have quite a bit to talk about this week. I did want to bring up one thing, though, related to, we did a bonus episode last week about the state of play, and on that episode, we were talking about the fact of, who is the Medieval remake for? Medieval. I was told I say it weird.
You've said it weird so often that I've latched onto that, and I just
yeah.
call it medieval now.
Yeah, it has the inner cap, so it
Like
bothered me a bit.
metachlorians.
But we were talking about, like who is in that nostalgia window because it obviously wasn't at the heights of like Crash or Spyro or things like that. And Brandon from the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/podcastbeyond, said, when they announced it, I couldn't believe it. I feel like they're making this just for me. He was very excited. Sean, one of the mods, I believe, in the group, pointed him out to me to let us know there are fans in the Beyond group who are excited for medieval remake.
No, that rules.
Yeah.
That totally rules. I think that's like what's the cool thing about, one of the only good things about getting old and still playing video games is that if you live long enough, you might get to see some of your favorite games get remastered, which is really cool.
Which is awesome that happens so frequently these days. Moving into the news, though, one thing I want to talk about, we've got quite a bit of Ubisoft to discuss. The first piece that I want to talk about is that Ubisoft basically kind of trolled us all yesterday, or maybe if you're suspicious. So anyway, the long and short of it is, the creative director of The Division 2 tweeted out working on the new Splinter Cell with, and added a couple other directors at Ubisoft Games, and went on this longer tweet of like, and it's a crossover with The Crew 2 and whatever, and then tweeted out, please don't retweet, et cetera, and then tweeted out some of his messages with one of the PR representatives from Ubisoft. And then Ubisoft gave us an official comment, and I'm going to find it very quickly, but essentially they called it a joke. They said his tweets, Julian was obviously joking, as Julian likes to do. It looks like our creative directors are having fun right now. We do not have any announcements to make at this time. But essentially,
you can't joke about that.
Yeah, in the age of Twitter as it is, and people saying things all the time. But essentially, for a brief 20-minute window, it seemed like a new Splinter Cell was in the works, officially, accidentally.
No, I mean, you could literally go on Twitter and just verbatim write the "why did the chicken cross the road" joke, and you would have thousands of people being like, where's the chicken? Like, people take things very literally on that website.
Yeah.
It's very hard to infer tone or sarcasm or humor or anything like that. And so I saw that and I was like, oh, he screwed up, but we're getting a new Splinter Cell. This rules.
Same.
I forget which one. It might have been the last or the second to last Splinter Cell. I got really into Blacklist, maybe?
Blacklist was the last one. It was Conviction, then Blacklist.
Yeah, I loved that game.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that had, like, pretty much it crystallized my favorite parts of the original franchise and then built a bunch of cool stuff on it. Had, like, multiplayer stuff that I didn't really mess with too much, but that game was a blast.
Sorry, Max.
I completely, like, I was never really into Splinter Cell, but I did a bunch of, like, I think preview coverage leading into that, and it was interesting because it felt sort of almost neck and neck with the Tomb Raider reboot. It was around the same time frame, and they were like, let's take sort of the sort of nuts and bolts of this franchise and go back to it, and it was like, it was very much, it wasn't quite open world, but it was that wide linear.
Yeah.
It was like, you can be quiet or you can be loud, you can hang off the ledges and whistle to get people's attention, and we got spies versus mercs, and then it kind of came and went, and it felt like, it was obviously, I thought it was going to, we'd get more sequels, but where are they?
It just kind of disappeared, sort of like Prince of Persia did for Ubisoft. My thing is, I think whether or not this was an actual joke, I think he probably was joking, but I feel like there has probably been a Splinter Cell in the works at Ubisoft at some point in the last few years, or it's something they're thinking about. What's interesting to me, like on that note, because of they keep mentioning Splinter Cell. It's referenced in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. They brought Michael Ironside back for a mission in Ghost Recon Wildlands DLC. Like, they continue to bring up Splinter Cell.
No, even his, like,
set the stage.
His goggles have become, like, part of the sort of, like, iconography of Ubisoft as a studio. I mean, they sneak into Rabbids, they sneak into, like, all of their Uplay stuff. You go to their website and poke around, it's like Sam Fisher eyes are there, you know? That's a thing people want. It's a thing people care about. It's a prestigious thing to that studio. Where is the new game?
Yeah, and normally, so I don't tend to put a lot of faith in retail leaks these days, because so often it's a lot of people who put a thing they think might happen in a computer to make it easier when they have to put it in. Like, that just is the reality of it sometimes.
Yeah.
But the infamous Walmart Canada leak last year mentioned a Splinter Cell, and pretty much every other game in that leak has since been confirmed, announced, or was already revealed. So to me, that meant there was probably a Splinter Cell at some point that was being talked about. Maybe it's been scrapped. Maybe they're waiting to reveal it.
Yep.
Who knows? But I did want to mention, continuing into the Ubisoft news, they just released their yearly earnings report for the last fiscal year, and also had a little bit about looking ahead to the next fiscal year, which would run from April 1st this year to March 31st, 2020. And what they said in that is that they have 4 major AAA releases planned through that fiscal year. Basically. 4. So including Ghost Recon Breakpoint. So the exact quote essentially is that they plan to reveal and then release 3 more AAA titles in addition to Ghost Recon Breakpoint in the last fiscal quarter of this coming fiscal year, which would be January to March 2020.
Okay.
Unless fiscal years are very complicated sometimes, where every company's fiscal year is slightly different. So, like, their fiscal year is fiscal year 2019 to 2020, but another company might right now be in fiscal year 2020.
So are we talking about...
So there's just all these, like, weird numbers to deal with.
Yeah.
But essentially, going by a standard Ubisoft procedure, that would be January to March 2020. There will be 3 AAA releases.
3 games from January to March?
That's how I read it in their report. It could be, I can show you guys the language, but essentially it says... Here we go. The increase in net bookings for fiscal year 2019 to 2020 will be a strong growth for new releases with 4 AAA titles, including Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and 3 other titles that will be revealed later and released in the 4th fiscal quarter.
Okay, so...
That's not surprising at all. I think that's pretty much on track for sort of how they've gotten better about not announcing things so far in advance.
Yeah.
Like when you look at sort of the scheduling surrounding this stuff, Ghost Recon Wildlands was announced at E3 2015. That came out in 2017.
Yeah.
We got Breakpoint announced last week, and that's coming out in October. Like they've obviously kind of learned how to sort of nip that in the bud and get a better idea of when things are going to be ready, and also how to not kind of burn people out. You look at the difference between Watch Dogs 1 and Watch Dogs 2 and sort of that long tail of PR promotion and announcement. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if we had, a couple more surprises at E3 that are, I mean, it's how Bethesda did it with Fallout 4, where they're like, it's out this year.
Well, and they've been better themselves about that. Like you were saying with something like Breakpoint, they've been doing that with the Assassin's Creeds. They haven't really been giving those too much of a long tail.
Right.
To me, it feels like something like a new Watch Dogs, which we've seen some like rumors and leaks about it. It is in fact true.
Are we seriously thinking that they're going to launch like a new game in January, a new game in February, and a new game in March?
They could release them somewhat close to each other.
Yeah, because that feels crazy.
Well, so like we've seen proven success in January. Is like we've had Capcom really dominating January. Kingdom Hearts 3 was released this year in January. And Ubisoft themselves have had big success in February and March. In 2017, I believe it was.
That's like
Ghost Recon
That's Far Cry
Wildlands.
territory.
Yeah, Ghost Recon Wildlands. For Honor was announced or released in February, I believe. Far Cry we get a lot. If not in December's, we get it in the early parts of the year.
We've kind of learned to expect. I feel like there's when did Far Cry 5 came out? That was a fall release, right? I'm trying to remember that. I know that Primal and
Far Cry
New
5
Dawn.
was March 27th.
Yeah. Okay.
I
So
think
yeah,
it was Far Cry 4 was a December release.
Because 5 and
Okay.
New Dawn were like just around a year apart and used the same map, and there was a lot of deja vu going on playing those games because I was like, oh yeah, I've been here and done that.
But, I mean, New Dawn was also announced like less than a year out from that. That was a June announcement, and then
that was an
dropped.
E3 thing.
Yeah.
A Far Cry shaped thing to sort of cap off the generation feels right. I would say that we will not see a new Assassin's Creed thing. They just launched that massive new update.
episode 1 of the Fate of Atlantis DLC, which functionally looks like I haven't gotten to it yet. I'm still working my way through the other DLC, but it feels like a new full game. And that's their focus for this year.
Totally. And Assassin's Creed is also like usually a pretty big fall franchise.
Yeah, it's definitely a fall game.
I could see them rolling out a new one next year around next gen launch.
Yeah.
That'd be super cool.
Ubisoft loves launch titles.
They do.
Unless, I mean, there's the weird caveat of if Microsoft, I don't think Sony will anymore launch early in 2020. If Microsoft decides to go early in 2020 and release in March,
oh god,
that could change things too. I'm not saying they will, but they did release the 360 a full year before PS3 was released.
Yeah,
the
and also
Switch March release was a big one.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we used to think that like any console launching in the spring was suicide, and then the Switch came out, and the Switch, by the way, just outsold the PS4 in Japan.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
So I think a Watch Dogs thing feels right, a Far Cry thing, and then their third one,
Skull and Bones.
So they actually delayed Skull and Bones in this fiscal report also until after this fiscal year.
Oh,
so
wow.
it
Okay.
won't
So that's
come until after March 2020.
I
So
think
that's a ways off.
I think the third thing will be some sort of all ages thing. They've seen success working with the sort of Mario Rabbids thing. They saw the opposite of success with Starlink.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I think I don't really. Rabbids are weird because like you don't think of them as like a thing at all, and then you go to France and they're everywhere, and you're like, I don't get it. Like this is your Mickey Mouse.
I would be so down if they took that sort of trademark Ubisoft open world formula and they just made a Rabbids game. I don't know what it would be about, but
and all ages. I think we talked about this the other day, right? About Simpsons Hit and Run.
Oh yeah.
About sort of like making an all ages like I don't know, open world GTA style game, but
it
for
definitely
kids.
seems in Ubisoft's interest to make something for all ages, like seeing them do things with Starlink or seeing Mario plus Rabbids. Like obviously they do want to appeal to beyond a like hardcore mainstream gamer crowd sort of thing. Like they want something that can appeal to a younger demographic and parents would be okay buying all the time. So that wouldn't be shocking if they do a like major AAA.
They do also have Prince of Persia, which they've been sitting on for way too long.
I feel like that's kind of come and gone. I don't think they're. I mean, I could be totally wrong here, but I feel like I don't know. I feel like that they kind of pivoted what the core of that game was into sort of Assassin's Creed, and made it like not just. I mean, I don't know. There was like the wall running and climbing and stuff. It's also I don't know. They were like it's Prince of Persia. Anyway, here's the movie starring like Jake Gyllenhaal and Ben Kingsley. Sort of like,
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's definitely a different time. I liked that sort of like reboot remake for its art style and everything that came out in the 360 PS3 generation, but it seems like they very clearly, when Assassin's Creed took off, that became their stealthy or climb all over, like, which I think also kind of contributed to Splinter Cell going away.
It also,
in terms of stealth.
I can't even imagine them doing like a linear narrative-driven single-player game these days. They are
games as a service.
Yeah.
That's
Also, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff we're forgetting about. There's all the big sort of, more familiar franchises that have characters and mascots and whatnot, but they also have like Steep,
Just Dance.
there's Just Dance, and then there's Drive Club? No,
Driver.
What am I saying? Driver, and then The Crew.
Yeah. Just Dance is the one where we all grumble for 7 minutes a year at E3, and then it goes on to become one of the most consistently best-selling games of the year, just quietly. It's also the one that like sells the best on consoles that we've all long since given up on. They were making like Just Dance is like the dance version of Madden, where they make versions of that game long after like the Nintendo Wii and the PS3.
Still coming to the Wii.
Yeah.
It still came to the Wii last year.
Absolutely crazy to me.
That's crazy.
Obviously we don't cover Just Dance that much. I did pitch a 24-hour dance marathon, but it's just us playing Just Dance.
How dare you?
Because I would love it. But yeah, obviously there are a lot of things either like waiting in the wings at Ubisoft they could do. I do agree. I don't think, unless it's tied to probably a next-gen launch or something like that, like the next Assassin's Creed is going to be a big deal for them. And that would be surprising to me for them to put it out in the early part of the year. But obviously we have no idea about what those 3 games are exactly, but we will have the E3 press conference that Ubisoft is doing, so hopefully that gives us a better idea of what's on the way from them in the early part of next year. Moving on from that, though, I did want to mention Raising Kratos came out in between episodes when we recorded. Raising Kratos is the like feature-length God of War documentary celebrating the development of that game, its launch, its reception, the fans, the ups and downs of that development. And I don't know if both of you have gotten a chance to watch it or anything. I just want to, if you have, just sort of your reactions to watching what you have seen of it.
We're in it.
Yeah, we're in it at the credits.
That's right.
Did we sign releases for that?
No.
All right.
Yeah.
That's okay.
We
need to?
I don't know.
I'm glad we're in it.
I don't know how that stuff works. That's cool.
I was like clapping and cheering when my dumb face popped up at the end.
It was very fun.
It is a beautiful, haunting, inspiring tale about like the sort of highs and lows and sort of perils of video game development. It both makes me go, oh, that would be a really cool thing to do someday, and also, oh my God, that sounds like the most terrifying thing in the world. Like this is a success story about when a bunch of people come together with a vision and pull something off, and there's so many versions of that don't get documentaries, where games come out and kind of get like 5s or 6s, and everybody went in with the right intentions, and something just crumbles. But it is like really cool to see just little moments of them like reacting to finding out about reviews for the first time, or Twitch streamers, or traveling all over the world and sort of like wondering if this thing is working. The amount of sort of honesty and self-doubt that is in this is like really sort of inspiring and refreshing in a way.
I appreciated how much of that was in there, because obviously this is a thing released from PlayStation, so like, there's a presumed level of sanitation to it that happens in the process of making it, but they still do offer a surprising amount of like, oh, this might fail, or oh, working on this thing for 4 years is getting to me, or oh, hey, 100 people just got laid off.
Yeah,
like there are terrible parts of game development in the modern era right now.
And I mean, again, like Corey has like obviously become the figurehead of this game. So many people worked on this game, but it is like. He is, and he's been on the show a bunch of times. We consider him a friend. It's so cool to see someone that sort of transparent and earnest about that process, and especially about the emotions that go into it. I think I recoil a lot when I see a lot of people in the audience and even press say things like, "Oh, their developers are lazy," or like they didn't try hard enough for this. Like the amount of work that goes just into a door in a video game or an axe. Is just, there's just so much, and to see so many people working on this and then like basically burst into tears when the reviews come in.
So cool.
And stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, like Corey is like he's wonderful, and he's become sort of the face of that studio. But that game is as triumphantly phenomenal as it is because of clearly a lot of really, really just great teamwork.
Yeah.
And just I don't know.
Yeah, I appreciated the focus that they put on not just Corey, and whether it's the leads of the different teams or what seems to be Corey's like unsung hero, Yumi Yang, producer on the game, like things like that. Or there's like a very insightful moment where it's Yumi and Shen Studstill talking about like, hey, obviously a lot of crunch time happens with a game like this. How has it been having though like a family here versus like, you know, unfortunately having to miss some stuff with your family at home? And Shannon like just openly goes, I don't want to answer this question right now. Like there are very revealing moments about things like that.
Yep.
But it also points to here's what the animators had to work on. Here's what the narrative team had to work on. Here's what all the different departments to a certain extent had to go through to bring this game to life.
It was I've done like a couple dev studio visits in my days, and it's like it's always fascinating to see something go from sort of concept to completion in that regard. And seeing somebody like pass a sketch down the hall to the 3D modeler, who then passes it down the hall to somebody who's doing texture work, and just to make one tree or one character. I've always been fascinated in sort of like BTS stuff and how stuff gets made, and I really hope this becomes something we get to see more of. And I do appreciate, like you hinted at, Jonathan, that like this is obviously a piece of PR material from Sony, but there are moments in there where you find vulnerability that they didn't just gut out. And I appreciate that, because that's part of the story, is that things are not easy to make.
I think it's also really incredibly important to sort of show how things are made, and to not just make them like, it's not just, you know, people put math into a box and cowboys come out. Like, this is a lot of people's time and, you know, blood and sweat and tears and all that. And Sony's doing this, but that's good. Like, it's good that a company is being like, I think there's such a weird, because games are so rooted in sort of like tech business, you know, as opposed to like the entertainment industry. There's things are kept much more buttoned up. Like, I would be surprised if we saw something like this from Rockstar ever. It would be really cool if we did. If they did, I feel like it would be, you know, they'd hire like Werner Herzog to do it or something. But like, you know, there's this mystery, and the weird part of it is like, it's not it doesn't have the same amount of movie magic. It's like harder work, and it's less cool to look at from a distance.
Yeah,
it's a lot of people sitting at desks, you know, and it's like sometimes there's cool stuff on the desks, and sometimes they're like, yeah, let's build an actual axe and mocap it or whatever, you know. But like, it's not like, oh, like Steven Spielberg built a giant boulder and pushed it down a tunnel. Like, this is, you know, it's a lot of, you know, like hard, heavy lifting that's tedious. And I mean, there's an actual grind there.
Yeah. And even a game like this where it's very cinematic, obviously, you know, they show a lot of the mocap, and a dramatic moment is them poking a plastic knife into a foam square.
Right.
As the, you know, one of the big emotional moments of the game. And it's quite different than you can go, we're in the deserts shooting Star Wars, and
totally
all of this incredible like work done to their costume and everything.
Here's
like,
Daisy Ridley's stunt double flipping over a TIE fighter.
Here are 700 dots on Christopher Judge.
Yep.
He is Kratos.
I mean, it's like games are interesting because they're highly interactive, which is different than something like The Force Awakens, which you just watch and it unfolds in front of you. But our base expectation with video games is that they work perfectly, and when they don't, our impetus is almost to take pictures of it, and we've all done this, or like take videos and be like, ha ha ha, it broke. And yeah, because that's funny, right? Because it's like it's this cinematic, serious world that occasionally like a guy gets stuck in a wall, or like somebody falls through the floor, and that's hilarious.
Built a microcosm out of nothing.
Yeah, and so that's really cool to see, sort of that entire process go in there. And I think honestly, it's like if you're a budding game developer, you're an artist, dig into stuff like this, watch stuff like this. Also, shout out to people like Danny O'Dwyer making No Clip, which is like a tremendous video series about how video games get made. There's all these documentaries on Netflix, Chef's Table and Street Food and all this other stuff, and I love them all because I love eating and I love food and I love cooking. But I think a lot of people have a disconnect with sort of how stuff gets made, and it's really fascinating. And I promise you, like once you start digging into it, you'll have a deeper appreciation of the art and the things that you're purchasing and buying, and it might even inspire you to start making stuff of your own.
Absolutely. And Corey brought up a good point on Twitter, because a lot of people have obviously been like, awesome, thank you, Corey. And Corey was like, hey, thank you so much. Like, this is tremendous, all this outpouring of support. Do this to other devs.
Yeah.
Like, thank them publicly. Thank the people who make the stuff you love, and show them that, because obviously in a grind like this, where he's pretty open in the documentary of how much this got to him at certain points, it is nice to know that there are people out there who are so thankful for what you make.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's also, I mean, there's the sort of auteur problem, which is obviously so many people work on a game and do so many different bits and pieces, and every studio is a little bit different structurally. And you kind of have to have somebody who's like, who's a good face for the project, and you cart them out and you have them sit on a couch, and it's Corey or Kojima or Ted Price from Insomniac or whoever it is, and it's like, this is. To be like, this person made this thing is totally disingenuous, and there's so many people who do little tiny things, and they're not always even allowed to say, I did this thing. Like there can be the person whose job it is to make bushes, and they work for a company that is 20 minutes into the credits for some massive open world game because they work for some subcontractor studio. And they're like, what if they're really nice bushes? They can't even be like, those are my bushes,
Mm-hmm.
It's game development is obviously going through, I think, a big transformation on that side, and it's nice to have a window into it like this.
Yep.
And I hope we see more things like this, like No Clip, and things that show us. A bit
And
more
this Raising Kratos is on YouTube.
It's on
You just
PlayStation's
watch it there.
YouTube. It's free to watch. It's roughly 2 hours long, but totally worth watching.
Watch it
all
on
the way
your
through.
TV if you can.
Yeah, it's a really well shot documentary. Moving on, small thing I want to mention: the top April downloads for the PlayStation Store were revealed in between episodes. Top PS4 games for April: Mortal Kombat 11 was number 1, Days Gone was number 2, and World War Z was number 3. For PSVR, Beat Saber still number 1, still one of the best PSVR games.
Wow.
Job Simulator was number 2, and then Super Hot VR number 3. Not a total surprise there. Days Gone obviously came out the very end of the month. Mortal Kombat had a couple days ahead of it.
Yep.
We'll see what the May charts look like as well, but I'm not surprised to see both those games up there at all. Moving on from that, also wanted to briefly mention, because I know there are some fans of it in the Beyond audience, Dauntless has a final actual release date for PS4 and Xbox One. It's coming out May 21st. So we'll have more on that. Casey DeFreitas on our team has been covering it quite a bit. She'll have more to say as we get final code for that game and actually play it, so look forward to more of that coming soon. In addition to that, obviously Red Dead Online got a huge update. It's out of beta now. It is like a full release sort of thing. So our Wikis team and John Ryan, who's been on the show a few times, will obviously be jumping into that and having a lot more coverage on IGN as well.
That has it's like a story-driven update.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because they pretty much stayed away from that kind of stuff with GTA, but we're already getting it for Red Dead. I mean, there were rumors for years about here's our new story content, or they're working on basically an addendum to the core story of 5, and now Red Dead's already got more stuff out. So if you want more of that, it's there.
I got really excited the other day. Obviously we're going to get GTA 6 at some point, but those games are so sort of singular and so few and far between. And every time one of them comes around, it's like we get so hyped about it. But looking back, the most granular little details are so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that that's going to have a new logo and new key art, and they put so much detail into that. I'm just I want to see what that logo looks like.
The process for,
I don't know. We got so accustomed to seeing that GTA 5, and it's that was, what, 7-8 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That thing dropped, and and I'm like, damn, they just they stole the logo from money. That's ballsy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we're gonna get something totally new, and think of that that GTA 4.
Yeah.
And it's the logos, and this is stuff we're gonna see on a loading screen. It's just, I'm sorry, I'm just kidding.
No, you're totally right. I mean, this is I enjoy the world of Red Dead. I loved what Rockstar did in building this, probably one of the most gorgeous open world games ever made. Knowing that GTA is up next and it's going to be a modern, gritty crime drama where
Maybe.
you can hopefully.
I mean, it's gonna be a crime drama. We don't know if it's gonna be modern.
When do you think it'll take place?
The Old West.
I don't know.
I feel like it's got to have cell phones in it.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. You would do weird night. What if it's in 1991? What if they have crappy?
They don't have phones
Yeah,
in
they could have
91.
Old cell phones.
Car
Weren't there,
phones?
some
Yeah, like Zach
Palm
Morris.
Pilots? If everyone had a Palm Pilot that you're working through.
Beepers?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I
I don't know.
actually-
They've done games in the 60s. They've done games in the 80s. They've done games in the early 90s. They're Anyway,
LA Noir.
sorry.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
they can. It'll be very curious to see. I feel like that'll be obviously. I don't know how far away something like that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be anyone's guess. Games we do know that are announced and may be coming sometime soon in the future, but we're probably going to get something else before then. Death Stranding. Kojima keeps teasing trailers. He put up a tease a couple weeks ago of Death Stranding logo, Premiere, Adobe Premiere, and then he put up another tease 2 days ago. And again, Death Stranding, again, a Premiere timeline. So he's making a trailer, I presume. Or maybe the game is just a video. Who knows?
It's going to have videos in it. He
It
loves
will.
to do that.
Maybe this is a video in the game.
He's continuing the long tradition of the more we see this game, the less we know about it, and the more we tease it, the more I'm like, just either put it out or don't say anything. And obviously, we're gonna get something at E3.
I'm so excited.
I want
I'm
to
so
ask-
excited.
I want to talk about Sony and E3 in general, but I do want to ask, when do you think we're going to get this trailer? When do you see it dropping?
I see this dropping during E3 online.
Okay.
And I don't know what that looks like, which is odd because
Yeah.
I'm trying to everything. This is what's weird about going forward with us basically blowing up E3 and putting the pieces back together. Everything has historically gone in a box, and you go, we're a third-party studio, we're a first-party studio, we're a second-party studio. We have a new game, we have to show it off. That will go in our press conference, or we're Final Fantasy, here's our new game. We got paid by Microsoft to put it at the top of the Microsoft conference. Pull Sony out of E3, and then where do you put a Death Stranding shaped thing?
Oh,
you just drop it online?
You kick everyone's ass, and you do a week beforehand when everyone's kind of like scrubbing Walmart Canada for Bethesda leaks, and you go, "Hi, here's a 20-minute, PlayStation State of Play."
Do you think it'll be before E3?
I think it'd be really smart.
Yeah.
Because they would suddenly control the messaging. It'd be really cool, and Kojima's done stuff like this before. If they were like, "Hey, Death Stranding. Here's a trailer. Here's a funny release date, and oh, by the way, there's an experience you go download on PSN right now."
Yeah.
I mean, that's what PT was. It was a playable teaser.
Yeah. He could totally do that. Brandon Tyrell's theory is that I think just to see it happen, and I kind of like the idea if it would, to release the trailer right as the Microsoft conference ends at E3. Like basically that conference ends, and then you put the trailer online.
That would
Say,
be
here you go. I mean, like there haven't really been catty moves like that in a while. Like things that are
since the
that big since the How to Trade.
the Adam Boys handing it. Yeah,
I think that would be suicide.
I think that would, yeah.
I think the Microsoft conference is going to do the same thing it did last year and with Cyberpunk stuff.
Yeah.
Or else open with it. But I think it's going to be like that's going to be their big thing to card out.
Yeah.
I think to try to like Death Stranding is weird and cool and crazy and people on the internet like to talk about it. But as far as like, I feel like widespread appeal, people are like, what in the hell is this?
Well, Max and I were talking about this the other day. E3 is so damn weird this year because the Microsoft press conference kicks off the show on Sunday at 1 p.m.?
I have it somewhere in front of me. Hold on.
And so in terms of like next gen news and rollout, getting that ball rolling, that obviously Sony will then counter or respond to or ignore completely. All eyes are on Microsoft to basically start the conversation of what next gen looks like. And that will be done by 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, 3 days before the actual E3 show floor even opens. And so we know Sony doesn't have a booth. We know Sony doesn't have a press conference. But the biggest thing of the show starts at the beginning of the show, but then it sort of opens up to everything else. And then you have third parties. You have Ubisoft. You have an EA parking lot party. Square Enix, obviously. And then you've got the Nintendo thing and Bethesda on Sunday night. But that leaves tons of space for somebody like Kojima or, for Sony to basically go, hey, we have a special thing that we're going to put here. Or
So, do you think Sony can win E3 without being at E3? Like, can they control the conversation in some way this year without actually being?
Yes.
That is a very good question.
Absolutely.
What do you think they need to do that?
I think take advantage of that week beforehand where everyone's just kind of milling around. It would be a massive pain in the ass for us because we're all like, all our cameras are packed up and we're trying to scramble and get on flights and stuff. But like for them to come out and be like, hey, while you're waiting, here's what we're doing. Or conversely, you can wait and see what everyone else does and then just basically be like a jackal and swoop in at the end when everything's exhausted and tired and dead. I think that's a bad move though, because I mean, again, this is coming from on the press side of things. Huge pain in the ass. A lot of people take comp days, vacations, and stuff the week after E3. Things aren't set up. Everyone's tired.
Well, that's the sort of thing that happens every time somebody at E3 is like available right now. That is great for people watching the thing at home, but in terms of getting press, not even just from journalists and stuff like that, but from any content creator, if you're a YouTuber or whatever, you're more focused on the news grind that is happening that week than you are of basically publishing reactions, let's plays, reviews of any kind of like like there was that game they launched a couple years ago during the PlayStation conference that was like that. It was like that bird
Entwined,
yeah, and it like sort of just came and went. And it was a cool looking game, and I eventually went and picked it up. But the history of like dropping
that's the Concrete Genie devs.
Yeah. And so I think that like dropping a playable demo for Death Stranding during E3 would be kind of crazy. That said, what you guys are saying is 100% right in terms of like sitting back and waiting to see what Microsoft does. Microsoft is smart enough now, I believe, to not shoot themselves in the foot like they did at the start of the last gen. I have full confidence that they have spent the last 5-6 years going that set everything down the wrong path. Sony was able to swoop in, dominate globally, own the entire next-gen conversation, basically, from start to finish. So I think that, like, this time around, they're going to be a little more cautious, but still, and this is where things get interesting, if both of these systems do promise backwards compatibility, by the nature of the current gen library, the PlayStation 5 is going to have better backwards compatibility than the Xbox One 2 because the PlayStation 4 has had better games than the Xbox One has. And
they've also got a leg up if they're like, oh, it's cross-platform. Anything you own on PSN is yours. And you bring it with you.
Yeah, PSN stuff is a big question for how that'll be. But yeah, I mean, that is true if Xbox decides to say also the Xbox One 2 is backward compatible with 360 and original Xbox still also.
That is a damn awesome library.
Yeah.
And that I don't want to downplay that at all. I saw that basically every single Xbox 360 game above a 90 on Metacritic is now playable on the One.
Yeah.
And that is incredible.
That's huge.
I mean, the fact that Sony is still sitting there being like, oh, there's a couple PS3 remasters, maybe 1 or 2 PS2 games, like
PS Now.
Yeah, you can get a PlayStation Classic. Like it's so scattered.
But also, you got to look at sort of the amount of how often people were buying things digitally.
Yeah,
like this last generation is when I made the jump from I need a physical copy of the game to I will happily, just push a button and download it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it was cool when I plugged in my Xbox One and they were like, "Hey, here's the stuff you own." I was like, "Oh, hey, Blood Dragon, sweet." A game that never came out physically.
Yep.
And it's like, there's a handful of things like that on there. But then I'm like, Milo, the hell are you?
I also I don't know, we heard at last year's E3 that Xbox came out and they basically said, like, we care about the future. Here's our plans. We're ramping up these brand new studios. We're going to have like this library of brand new exclusive content. They've swooped up like incredible AAA developers from all over the world who've worked on some of the biggest franchises ever in very key roles, and they're building this future-facing library of exclusive games. I don't know when that will be ready. I can't bank on that as a consumer going to buy their console on day one, that one day I'll be able to buy something cool.
But we could find out at E3.
We could find out at E3, and that's what I hope to see, right? Obviously, because I'm pretty agnostic. I'm on a PlayStation show, but I've owned every Xbox ever made. I'll continue to. That said, it is quantifiable what Sony has right now that is not out, and that's Death Stranding, The Last of Us 2, and Ghost of Tsushima. That's just the big three ones right there. Not even counting whatever Guerrilla is working on,
and whatever Santa Monica is.
And whatever Santa Monica is working on. You have big studios that have big projects in the works that we don't know anything about. And so just kind of knowing that those are in the back, even if we haven't played them and we don't even know what the hell Death Stranding is, I know that it's sort of more intriguing than like whatever some other studio I haven't even seen publish a game yet is working on. And it's crappy of me to say, but I trust the guy that made Metal Gear Solid 5 more than I trust a new studio that hasn't done anything yet, because one of them is proven. Now, I'm completely open to playing everything new that comes out, all the new experiences. But if you tell me, like, the guys that made The Last of Us are making a new game, and the guys that made Horizon are making a new game, and the guys that made Metal Gear Solid 5 are making a new game, I'm like, okay, this is what I'm
weird point where everything is guesswork.
Yes.
So we are still, it's worth noting in terms of like when Sony could do something around E3. They've only had 2, but the cadence between the first and second state of play was 6 weeks. If they continue that cadence and drop the third one in a 6 week cycle, it will be the week after E3.
Right.
Interesting.
So presumably, obviously, Kojima is working on a trailer. They could literally do a state of play that is that Death Stranding trailer, and like, here's the announcements for the days of play in June, and that could be the whole state of play.
Yeah. I mean, they could also
do that.
have other sort of third-party stuff tease it.
Yeah.
You know, if they show like some Final Fantasy VII thing and the Square Enix stuff, and they're like, oh, and stay tuned, you'll hear more in a week at the Sony State of Play.
Yeah, and they've basically, I mean, they've done that leading up to E3, where it's like, hey, we're going to hear more about Final Fantasy VII in June. Square has a conference in June at E3, and there's a Final Fantasy Orchestra right before E3. Like, they've already started to put themselves in the conversation without being there.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that we're sort of negating here for a second is that this E3 could just be entirely focused on swan songs for current gen, right? I think Microsoft is going to talk about next gen plans a little bit. I don't think they're going to give us necessarily like a price or maybe even a date. I could be wrong. I'd love to be wrong because I want to know those things. But I can tell you that like when we find out about, you know, Call of Duties and Final Fantasies and basically anything that's still trickling out this year, Sony has probably spent the last year talking to those studios and going, what can we get to make this experience more enticing for PlayStation fans? And that means exclusive content. That means like early access stuff. That means, you know, just all of the deals that they've been doing for the last 5 years, which they can swindle by nature of having a sort of an audience of people that is 2 or 3 times bigger than the other consoles.
We presume, yeah.
We presume, because we've never actually gotten official numbers on Xbox for whatever reason, which sucks because I love to know those.
I love numbers.
Sony can kind of hang back at E3 and go like, oh, you guys announced a new Call of Duty? Cool. Well, in the corner, there's a PlayStation logo, and here's a press release that quietly says, like, you'll be able to play that early here, or you'll get exclusive content here for here and here and here. And that's huge. And again, they don't have to show up at the show to do that. That's just like by nature of having, you know, sort of reaping the rewards of having 100 million systems out there.
Well, like E3 is so functionally obsolete in that sense. It is this weird battle royale where every corner of the video game industry throws their newest, hottest stuff at the same location physically at once, and some of that trickles out on the internet thanks to press or influencers or live streams or press conferences or whatever it is. And then it's like, I don't know, like cut a video and set up a Twitch channel and put a countdown on your website any other week of the year.
Yeah.
And you will probably get more eyes on it and more people talking about it.
Sure.
And it's like, it's just, I mean, look at Apex Legends. In 10 days, that became the biggest game in the world because it was like, we don't know what it is. We've heard rumors. Here it is. It's out. Go for it. And then it's like, that was it. And now it's still going.
Yeah. And I mean, something like the precedent, like you were saying, Max, of PT teaser and how significant that is to the PS4's life cycle and part of like the ethos of gaming in this generation to say, hey, we have PT2 or whatever they want to call it for Death Stranding.
Yep.
It's they'll probably figure out something to use a D and an S for in the title, but like, here's this 20-minute thing that gives you an idea of Death Stranding. That would be huge. We would all talk about that for weeks.
No, totally.
I could totally see Sony finding ways to stay in the conversation without being there, and probably saves them a lot of money. Not showing up at that show, it's kind of a big cost. So I can definitely see that. We'll obviously be talking about everything at E3. Obviously, all of IGN will be there, and whatever happens with PlayStation before, after, during, surprise drops, we'll be covering here and on IGN, so be sure to stay tuned for all that stuff. We're so close to E3. I have to book my...
Are you having nightmares yet?
No, it's the daytime mares. It's just all through the day.
I've been having like work stress dreams left and right.
Ooh, that's a lot of fun. Yeah. It's just my day. So, yeah. When I go home, I pet my dog and I feel better.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to a very fun memory card that we have.
Yeah, memory card.
So thank you to everyone who's been writing in for a memory card. Memory card, of course, is if you'd like to share with us a beloved PlayStation memory, whether it's funny, sad, happy, whatever, please write in to beyond@ign.com with the subject line memory card, and we'll be sure to read some of these on the show every week. One we got in between episodes I really, really wanted to read on this week's. Obviously, we had that big one about, trading or giving away the game to the woman who would become his wife.
The greatest story ever told.
That was a great story.
That was.
I don't know what could live up to it, but I'm going to say this gets probably pretty close for me, at least.
Hell yeah.
So anyway, Carlos wrote in to beyond@ign.com, and Carlos says, when I was in high school, I had a Sega Saturn, and it sucked. I saw an ad at my local electronics boutique, yes, that's what it was called before they changed it to EB Games, about the new Sony PlayStation that was coming out. The price was $300, and I had about $20 to my name. But I noticed that they had a trade-in offer where they would accept your used Genesis games and give you $10 for each one. I only had a few Genesis games at the time, so I didn't think this would work for me. Later that afternoon, while walking through the mall, I noticed that KB Toys was having a blowout sale on Genesis games. The cheapest one was Tommy Lasorda Baseball for 50 cents.
I love where this is going.
I spoke to the manager and asked a KB employee how many copies they had. She confirmed that they had hundreds, since Tommy Lasorda Baseball was a terrible game. So I bought 30 copies for 50 cents each and went to Electronics Boutique and handed them over as trade-ins for my new PlayStation. The salesperson at Electronics Boutique scoffed at me and told me that I couldn't trade in 30 copies of the same game and also that they had to be used. I asked to speak to a manager who agreed that they had to be used but confirmed that there was no restriction to the number of repeat titles that you could trade in. So I proceeded to open up every copy of the game so that they would be used, traded them in, and I got a brand new PS1 for $15.
Get them! Oh my God!
I've been a fan of PlayStation ever since. Thanks, Tommy Lasorda.
I have chills.
Keep up
That
the great
is
work. I love the show.
amazing.
Thank you so much, Carlos, for writing in that story.
God, I love that story.
That is insane. I read it. I was like in an Uber to a movie, and I was like, "Oh, a new memory card. Let me check it out." And I read it, and I'm like, "Okay." The headline is "Memory Card or How I Got a PS1 for $15," and I'm like, "Okay, let's see." He probably got it like a used garage sale or something like that. And yeah, that has layers.
Oh my God.
I love
How did
it.
EB Games outlive KB Toys?
I know, right?
That's the weird question there.
with sale trade-ins like that.
What the hell? That's
You know
like
what?
that-
I think they went and they turned around and they sold every copy of Tommy Lasorda Baseball for $15 and they made the money back, whereas KB just made 50 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They took the L on that one.
Wow. Good God, that's amazing.
Anyway, Carlos, thank you so much for that story. I absolutely love it. If you have a story, whether or not can live up to that, don't worry. We want to hear all of your memory card, your favorite
amazing.
PlayStation
the
memories.
best stories. This
Yeah.
is
They're
so
really
good.
great. Yeah, I really thank you so much to everyone writing in. We're on a little bit of a time crunch, so can't read too many, but we'll read more in the future.
Time crunch.
Someone make that game with us in it, Time Crunch with the News Crunch theme. That'll be awesome.
Time crisis, but everyone's made out of snack foods.
And there's a baby crying, always.
I
Or a
would
little
play
boy.
that.
Why not?
Anyway, thank you, Carlos, so much. Again, if you want to write into the show, beyond at IGN.com, and we will read memory cards in the future on the show. And I imagine we'll probably do some in-person ones for Beyond 600 when that
I think
happens.
Tommy Lasorda is going to be at Beyond 600.
Confirmed.
I can
First
confirm
guess
that right now.
for Beyond 600.
It's not true. It's definitely not true.
We'll see. We have weeks to plan.
I should probably Google if he's alive.
Yeah, we should probably check that. Anyway, thank you, Tommy Lasorda. Moving on before that, I wanted to just briefly talk about what we're playing right now. Obviously, there have been a couple big releases. It's been a relatively up and down spring of some weeks have major releases. There's a couple weeks at a time with nothing. So what are you guys playing? Is there anything new you're playing? Anything old? What are you up to? Brian, let's start with you.
I've been playing a lot of Plague Tale Innocence, which is a small. It's like if you look at pictures of it or screenshots, it looks like a big open world game. It's not. It's sort of like a small story driven kind of action stealth game. 14th century, basically peasant children are surviving a rat infestation plague. And I would say it's structurally similar to something like Hellblade, although I enjoy it a lot more. In that it's like a quasi-linear kind of story-driven affair. It's the leads in this game are basically children, and the voice acting for them is really well done and really believable. It's an incredibly beautiful game.
It's gorgeous.
It's a gorgeous game made by 45 people, which is just insane. I found out that the studio that made this game also made a Ratatouille game based on the Disney Rat film. I don't know if they exist.
Asobo Studio.
It might be a
prequel?
prequel. Yeah, I
It's
don't
a
know if they
prequel.
exist in the same universe.
The
Maybe if you-
post-credit scene shows you how Ratatouille.
in Ratatouille, he turns around and he's just got green teeth, you know. So this is I believe it's a slightly budget price game. I think it's $49.99. But I really like this game. It's got a little bit of sort of pass fail stealth stuff early on that can be a little frustrating. But once you push past that and get kind of in the groove of the mechanics a little bit, it's got some sort of minor hunting, scavenging, collectible stuff that you can use to upgrade your weapons and characters and stuff like that, which I appreciate because I thought it would be a lot more straightforward than that. If you are looking for something to sort of scratch that itch between waiting for The Last of Us 2. This feels like a very, very early prequel to something like that. Obviously, a lot more sort of streamlined. You're not going to get the same sort of like wealth of animations and there's no multiplayer and stuff like that. But I really dig this game. I really hope we get to see more sort of AA studios working on kind of smaller games like this. I think the entire thing will probably go for about 9-10 hours. So yeah, if you're looking for something to sort of crush through, maybe if you want to wait for a price drop or rent it or support a small studio like this, check this game out.
Yeah, I
really dig it.
It definitely, like, it has parts that you feel like this is not full blown AAA. This is not like a huge sprawling open world, but the amount of detail in the environments is really, really impressive. I was just right off the bat, like, kind of, I avoided sort of trailers and stuff. I heard there were a lot of rats and it was cool. But like the second it was actually booted up, also one of the first things you do in that game is just pet a dog, which is nice.
I think it's the literal first thing you do. Yeah.
I'm sure they were following the Twitter account.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous environment, and I need to press on and kind of get into it. I got impatient with it because it is like it is kind of pass fail stealth sequences and literal hand holding with sort of NPC characters.
Yeah, I was pretty worried that the whole game would be like just escort missions, stealth stuff, and luckily it's not. I totally agree with you. Like the first hour it gets a little tedious because they are showing you basic mechanics, and there really isn't like a lot of wiggle room in terms of where you can go and what you can do. And then it does get into like some very kind of cumbersome Naughty Dog style like crate pushing puzzles, which I wish we could just eradicate from video games forever.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you did there. I mean, this is to me, this game is like a 7.5, low 8 type of thing. I don't think this is a perfect game by any means, but
yeah, it sounds like they kind of cherry picked a bunch of sort of proven mechanics to build a game, and then actually spend most of the time and energy on the story and the world.
Yeah,
which is, and there's a part of me that's sort of like, but can I? What if there was like a less resistant walking simulator version of this, which is, it's a stupid complaint because it's still a video game.
Yeah, I'm weirdly torn on that because I totally see what you're saying, but I appreciate that it's kind of gamier than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Like once it turned into like exploring environments and like grabbing crafting materials to upgrade stuff, I was like, oh, I didn't actually think this would get that rich. I thought it would just sort of be like straightforward and keep going. I don't know what you called it before. Like we don't have a name for games like this because it's not open world, and I guess it's just a linear third. Like, what do you call a game like God of War or Tomb Raider? Or
I think they use wide linear, which is not like a convenient term.
Yeah,
like,
Jumbo Shrimp.
For reference, Stephen Petit or Petit for IGN. I've never known how to say his last name, so I say it differently every time. He gave it a 7.0 for us. Said A Plague Tale: Innocence has a great story, but the gameplay has a level of convenience that undercuts the perilous world.
Yeah. I think that's really fair. One thing that I really appreciated, I don't want to get spoiler or anything, the main characters are not killers. They're children. And when they have to do something to protect themselves out of self-defense, there is like a genuine like self-loathing and disdain in that. They are not proud murderers. I feel like there's a massive disconnect in a lot of video games where characters in movies too, right? It happens all the time, where a character goes from being like just an innocent person to like a trained killer within seconds and never really stops to think about the repercussions of that. This balances the nuance of that a little bit, which I definitely appreciate. I think the writing is like really good.
I can't think of any TV show currently going on where people are debating whether or not a character would murder perilously innocent at any time. That's not really a discussion.
No, definitely not.
But I appreciate where you're coming from on that.
Yeah.
Are you guys playing anything else besides that?
I've been really just feeling kind of like without anything to play. I'm curious about Rage. Dan put up his review about that. We didn't get codes or early copies or anything, but I think the line that really jumped out at me was he said it was sort of a Far Cry shaped thing for people who were burnt out on Far Cry. Which I'm like super into, and the fact that it's like loud, stupid, like id guns is good, like the BFGs in there. Not the Roald Dahl book, but the Doom gun.
Maybe both. We don't know.
Why not?
We haven't seen the game.
It actually does look like there's some BFGs running around there, but they don't look.
Taking some some of the best parts of Far Cry and mashing them with some of the best parts of Doom from 2016 is like very appealing to me.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good situation.
I do hope I get some time with that game.
Yeah,
before E3 is just here and then we don't get the
exactly. Yeah, I haven't played it either, but would like to soon.
Mm-hmm.
I have been playing. I'm still working my way through the Assassin's Creed Odyssey DLC, but I also just picked up because our former producer Barrett Courtney was tweeting about it so much. I went back to start playing the Batman Arkham games again. I'm in Arkham Asylum still.
What,
man,
did they patch it or something, or like what happened?
there was just Return to Arkham. Like I just felt like doing it. He was going for the platinums. Like he wants to go through it all again. They're like his favorite games of all time, and I was just like, yeah, I like those games a lot too. I should replay them. And so I'm working my way through Arkham Asylum. I just decided to, like, I never did it on my original run, but that secret room that took everyone months to find.
Yeah.
I finally was like, oh yeah, now that I know where that is, I should go find it.
How is
me,
it like revisiting Arkham Asylum?
It's good and bad. I think like what's funny is when the game came out, I remember a lot of people were talking about like the combat being too easy, even though that has become the standard of combat basically. Like that has become how combat in third-person action games works and like the gold standard for it. There is a little bit of a timing disconnect for me that I haven't been able to get down yet. Like it's revisiting the original games. There's a slight bit of for blocking and countering basically. I still miss it occasionally.
It's not as snappy, right?
Yeah.
I remember that being tricky.
Yeah, the combat in those games to me always had this missing a note and Guitar Hero element where like you literally hear like a it's like a like there's like somebody hits a turntable in the middle of a song and your combo stops and Batman gets punched in the neck and then you build it back up again. But I remember that one being my favorite because of sort of how not linear, but how sort of intimate it was and interwoven. It's the most Metroidvania of any of the ones they've done. And I think it was like a phenomenal excuse to introduce like 7 or 8 great villains in a very enclosed area and like going from, you know, the sewers where Killer Croc to
God, I hate that part.
Yeah.
That's the worst part of it.
I hate that part. I think the like Super Joker final boss is is
to be
very
fair,
bad.
yeah.
But I like the Poison Ivy stuff. There's a couple other characters that are handled really well, and like the introduction of Riddler puzzles without being scattered all over a massive city is really smart and enticing. But yeah, I've always wanted to revisit that, but then torn between being like, no, just let it sit in your head as the thing you enjoy, and don't go back and open that box again because you might not like it.
It's still great. Like so many parts of it are still great. I'm going back largely because I've always held like I liked Arkham Asylum better, but obviously I talk to Barrett all the time, and City is his like gold standard game.
Right.
Like, he loves it, and so I'm like, I loved Arkham City, but I still always have had like a kinship with Asylum. But I want to go back because it's been a few years since I've played both and see how I feel about them now, especially in a modern context.
Traversal in City is like it's like, God, that feels so good.
Yeah, and I think their side stuff is probably the gold standard for that franchise of like how you explore other villains in small encapsulated missions without the Firefly issue in Arkham Knight where you're just basically chasing them down over and over and over. It's just the same thing.
God, I want to see what they're doing next.
I know, I can't wait.
I know, it
feels like it could be a good year for it, you know?
WB is the biggest question mark to me going into E3.
They're also always really good about keeping stuff locked down until like the day before E3, and then you're like, what's that poster? And they're like, ah.
But yeah, I mean, like we've had those like maybe they're working on another Batman game, maybe WB in total, whatever Rocksteady's working on. There's maybe that Harry Potter game that was leaked that could be real. Like who knows? There are so many options there, and of course they also are the home of TT Games for Lego, so there's a lot there. Before we wrap up, thank you so much for listening all the way through this episode 591. We're so close to 600. Max, Brian, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at Agent Bizzle. Find Max at Max Scoville. But more importantly, every weekend you can find us on IGN and on YouTube with our brand new show Up at Noon, which we've just relaunched and we're super proud of. It's like the most like TV show shaped thing we've ever made here at IGN.
Yeah, we've both been making shows on the internet for close to a decade, maybe longer, and it's kind of crazy to have like, you know, when you try to draw something and it doesn't look as good as it does in your head. This is when you draw it and it looks like it. Like, this is the show we've been wanting to make for so long.
Yeah.
And I think some people are bummed that it's no longer like an hour of kind of bloated, rambling live stream nonsense. There's room for that at some point.
Yeah.
But this is a kind of thing you can watch on your lunch break. You can watch it on the toilet. It's 15 minutes of just like...
It very perfectly to me, and I mean this as a compliment, feels like your brain's put on TV.
Thank you.
On the screen.
That's the sweetest thing you could possibly say to us.
It very much is you2 personified into a great, like, encapsulated 15 to 20 minute thing.
Thank you. It's very much inspired by like sort of like 90s Nickelodeon and also lots of G4, you know,
Absolutely,
old sort of like Attack of the Show shaped stuff. And yeah, we just put all 4 or 5 this weekend, full episodes on YouTube. So if you're looking for a cool show to marathon while you clean your apartment or whatever,
it's Saturdays on IGN at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, and then YouTube on Sundays at that time.
There's a YouTube playlist that has all the episodes on it that's like up at noon, director's cut season 1 or something.
That's great.
Which I always put like hashtag Snyder Cut in there, but I don't know if that would go over well.
I feel like if you put that in the tags, you'd get a lot of hits.
that will attract an audience.
A lot of
Not
hits
sure
put
if
out
it's
on us.
the audience we want, but
Of course,
they will be there.
For discussion of the Snyder Cut and just Up at Noon in general, go to youtube.com/IGN.
That's
and
right.
Is there. And of course, new episodes go live of Beyond every Wednesday, 3 p.m. Pacific, unless I'm slightly delayed on getting it uploaded, at youtube.com/IGN Beyond. That's the full URL, beyond.ign.com, and on your favorite podcast services.
Oh, and if you somehow missed our second episode last week, the bonus one we did for the State of Play reaction, go check that out. It is a full episode of Beyond that we just wanted to do for you guys. So.
Yeah, it was a really fun episode. I think
Yeah.
it was a really fun discussion. And yeah, that happened in between standard episodes. So if you haven't gotten to check that out, please go do that. In addition to that, since you've made it this far on the show and in the spirit of being good and happy to people, if you follow or don't follow, go follow Jared Petty on Twitter. He's at Petty, Jared. And just tweet at him, hey, Jared, you're a wonderful person. Just go say hi.
Jared is one of the most wonderful people I've ever met. I love that man so much.
So if you're listening this far into the show, go tweet at him, say nice things. He's a wonderful person. And I am at JM Dornbush on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me there. And as always, we are so close to Beyond episode 600, but this is Beyond episode 591. And as always, Beyond.
Beyond.